Hey everybody, welcome back to our neck of the woods. So today's video is going to start out with us burying the electric. We already started a few days ago, but we ran into some major problems that I want to show you, and we've got to spend more money to try and get around it and fix it. But stay tuned, I'll show you what's going on. Okay, so I already spent about $350. You'll see up in the video coming up here in a second. I had a trench digger come out by a local guy, Jason, I think. Hopefully that's you. It's been a few days, I forgot. But you'll see below that he came out, had a walk behind trench digger, did a great job. But unfortunately, we hit some stumps that we need to now take care of with an excavator, because if we're using the 3-inch conduit down in, obviously you can't go around it now, and we didn't want to like redo the line. So we've got a stump right here that we hit dead on. Couldn't have been any better, so couldn't get around that. We also hit some major water going around the camper. Now, if you remember, this place used to be like a swamp right where the camper used to be, or kind of like right in this concrete, or the center pad where the concrete's gonna go in front of the garage door. There was a tree there that we took out that used to fill up with water. We put extra concrete in it when we were like finished with the pumper trucks. They were kind of trying to fill that hole in, but all the water just used to sit here, and all the property again goes back that way, and then it goes out to the side. So the hole started filling up. I don't know what else could be there, but it just wasn't working. So we tried to go beyond the hole, like kind of over in this area, and start this way. But again, we were hitting water. So we basically stopped the hole basically at the front of my truck now, and then we stopped the hole kind of right here. So our only option to get around all that water is we're gonna try and now shoot through the driveway. Not something I want to do, especially when we poured a concrete pad like in there somewhere. But we're gonna have to move these trusses, and basically right from the front of my truck, kind of getting close to the house as possible, we're gonna try and use the excavator and just cut in right through here, and then we'll go that way towards the house. So we're kind of halfway done, but to me it was kind of a waste of $350, because I could have just done it with the excavator, because that's going to be about $300 a day to rent. But I don't know, hang tight. I'm gonna get suited up because it's freezing, and we're gonna get this thing done today and hopefully put this line in the ground. Hey everybody, welcome back for another day. So I apologize, last 2 days we didn't get anything on video. Aaron and I kind of were at each other's throats, and when you're doing hard, annoying work, videotaping's just not in the option. I don't know, kind of saving my sanity a little bit there. But as you already saw, we got the trench dug with the trencher. And from the driveway to get around the mess that was happening over here in the RV, we went right through the driveway. As you can see, I've already started backfilling and putting the stone on. We're kind of running out of room though. Like, I've got all this here left over. This is kind of the top layer that I was saving, which, if you guys don't remember the way I did my driveway, I went down a good foot or so, taking off all the soft topsoil, got down to the hard compacted clay. Then we put those big number 2 limestones down. Then we put 304 limestone, which is anywhere from like 57s all the way down to a fine powder. That locked everything in. And then as we were coming up here to the garage and everything, we put down 57s. So I was trying to save as much as I could. Obviously you still get clay kind of knocked into the mix, because I went down under a driveway. Per code, I had to go down 2 feet from the top of the pipe. So you're looking at roughly, for that size pipe, it's 3 inches, I think, inside diameter. So you're roughly looking at, like, say 28, 29 inches down. And then everywhere else through the yard, we only had to go down 18 inches, but we went more with that because the guy just sent his trencher at that depth and just chainsawed along and got it. But it was super easy to do it with the excavator. It didn't take long at all. It's just a real big pain, and as you can see, just an absolute mess. So the reason why we were at each other's throats is because the easiest way for us to run that wire and that conduit is we laid the wire all the way out, which you can still see. It's sitting all the way out there in the backyard. And what we did is, because the pipes aren't very heavy and they're not very long at 10 feet, Erin basically went in front of me and she picks up the wire like this, and she basically just walks the wire in front of me as I've got one hand on the pipe and one hand kind of feeding it in. Because what we were noticing, and I don't know how anyone gets away with pulling wire when you set the conduit and then, you know, run a rope through and then pull it back. I don't know how you guys get away with that and the wire isn't completely destroyed. Because when you take the wire and you put it through this conduit, it doesn't matter which way you go, and it doesn't matter if this was all glued together. This leading edge right here is absolutely a razor blade. And if you look at just some of the spots on this wire, if I can find one, like right here, you just get like 1,000 little frays that just come off. And if you're pulling that wire super fast or hard with like a tractor or something, as you're pulling the rope down through, every 10 feet, you're just gonna be shaving that off. So what I was doing is, again, having one hand around the pipe and my other hand, I was kind of leading it in, or if I was able to just grab the pipe or put it under my arm and walk like this, the other hand was wrapped around all 4 cables and I was kind of guiding it in through that 3-inch opening so the wires wouldn't touch that leading edge. I'm sure there's plenty of plastic coating on there, but nothing that I feel really safe about or confident about that if you were pulling 350 feet, that wire wouldn't come out just like an absolute shaved razor blade kind of mess. So again, it wasn't the hardest thing. It's just completely kind of cumbersome to having somebody walk that way, not seeing what's going on behind. If the wire starts to get bunched up or going any which way, I can't get it to go through the pipe easy because the wire is heavy as can be, but everything else is lightweight. So we basically just walked all 10 feet at a time, all the way down, glued it together, and then we just basically did this. We threw it down in the hole, ran a 2x across, and then we've got our next one that's ready to come. Again, that's kind of where we're at with the electric. The other problem that we've come into is the electric company doesn't want to move the box, and they also won't let us use the 3-inch knockout that's there on the box. Apparently there's a 3-inch knockout on the left-hand side, but there's an internal built-in chase. That chase, they say, goes up to the meter, and they won't let you just pull the chase out. It basically just unbolts. They say that's for us, but their wire is coming in from the top, but the bottom would be for if they needed to come up from the bottom instead of coming down through a pole. So if it was underground, it would come up, go up through the chase, and then go to the meter, but they came from up above and went to the meter. So that chase and that 3-inch knockout, 1000% never going to be used, never going to be touched. But they won't let me access the upper meter part and basically just unbolt and remove the chase, because again, the chase is doing nothing. So we're already utilizing the middle hole and the right hole. They're smaller sizes, and the left or the right hole is powering the RV, so that will be gone one day when we get rid of the temporary electric. But the pole's kind of in the wrong spot, or the meter. We basically need to like move the meter over to here, or we're gonna have to like take that 3-inch line, re-dig it, and then kind of push it back over into the middle, move my wire for the privacy gate and the lights and everything, and move it over. But again, that will have to wait until the temporary electric for the RV is gone. So it's a complete mess. They won't work with me. I'm gonna wait till my father-in-law comes out here so he can take a look at it and see if he's got any other bright ideas, because it seems very stupid for them to say, no, that's ours, that's our chase, you can't use it. But your electric's already coming down in towards the meter. There's nothing that's going to be going in there except my 3-inch knockout, and then going up and going into the 200 amp breaker. So I don't know, we'll see what has to get done with that. But again, last few days hasn't been pleasant, hearing that news and then us just dragging this wire out. But we're almost done. We're at this turn. We've only got maybe another 30 feet and then 10 feet or so into the house, and we can leave that wire in there, everything glued. We can backfill, and we can call this project done. Hey everybody, sorry if you can't hear me too well, but rain has come. And if anyone's been wondering, and I know people ask why we've only built a ranch and why we only put the basement halfway down, well, now is the season that this is what the property looks like. It is pretty much going to be flooded from now until June. Everything from the front goes all the way back there in a huge river. Obviously, as we've been doing work, we obviously create more water issues, because now we're down to like clay. So everywhere where you can see where flooding is going on, that's going to be worse than obviously back there where you obviously have like grass and stuff. But right now the basement is flooded again. The sump pump wasn't turned on because, again, that's a plug-in sump pump. It's not an automatic. It's not that deep right now. It's only about an inch or so, or maybe less than that, because I was standing down in here in my sandals as I quickly ran out here and plugged the sump pump in. So what we're gonna do right now today is we're gonna fix this issue. We are gonna permanently get a sump pump put in. Now that the ground can't freeze anymore because we're beyond winter, we're gonna go ahead and access the outlet for the sump pump, which is down there. What I'll probably do just for a short time frame is put on like a 90-degree to get up here, and then just lay a pipe with another 90-degree and throw a pipe out to the yard. Then we'll cut that back one day, dig a trench out here, and then we'll actually put the sump pump trenched back there where it needs to be. But for right now, I can have the pipe coming up above ground, and water's gonna stay in that pipe. I'm not worried about that pipe now freezing, because we should be beyond any freezing points, because there should be a check valve on the pipe as it comes out of here and goes into the pipe down there. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there should be a like a one-way check valve that water doesn't flow back into the pipe, because that's what's kind of been happening with the pump now. You turn it on, and as soon as you turn it off, it shuts off real quick. All the water that's remaining in the garden hose flows back into the sump pump, so it starts to fill back up a little bit. But with a one-way check valve, it should stop that from getting back. So once the pump throws everything out, it should stop there. So we're gonna go get that. The sump pump now is only a 1,250 gallon an hour, but with the garden hose on, that's kicked down to probably next to nothing. So the one that I've got my eye on is a 6,660 gallon an hour pump. And we're gonna go ahead and hook up that 1.5 to 2 inch line. So we should pump the basement out probably in under an hour. So I'm gonna go to Menards right now, pick that up, and we're gonna get started. Okay, back from Menards. Before we get to installing the sump pump, since this video is talking about electricity, there's two things electricity-wise that I wanna upgrade and I wanna tell you about that we actually did something wrong. So if you remember, we passed inspection for the garage, for the panel, and when the inspector was out here, I did ask him, does a garage need arc fault breakers? And he said, no, it's not a dwelling area. So I did read the code correctly. The problem is I hooked the breakers up wrong, and he must not have taken a closer enough look, or maybe he just doesn't know how they're supposed to be wired correctly. But my father-in-law came over yesterday, as promised, to take a look out there at the street to see how we're gonna hook that 3-inch into the panel, how we're going to move everything around, and we'll figure that out later. And he already gave me his suggestion on what we're going to do, but I'll talk about that in another video. But while he was out here, he goes, your breakers are hooked up wrong. And I was like, well, why is that? If you remember, we hooked up the wires coming from the outlets, the lights, and this outlet. We hooked up the neutral wire to the neutral bar. Well, the reason why that is wrong is because these breakers are already connected to neutral. They're connected to the internal neutral bus bar right here. But the reason why the breakers say load neutral and load power is because you are supposed to hook up the power to power and the neutral to neutral. The way that we had this hooked up with the neutral wire going to the bus bar, the breaker in this was basically hooked up to neutral twice, and the breaker now can't see neutral. So if you're trying to look for an arc fault in between like the power wire and a neutral wire somewhere down the line, basically we hooked the breaker up as a normal breaker. There was no arc fault that could be detected, because if you don't have the neutral wire connected to the breaker like that, then you're not going to be able to see the jump in power from power to neutral. So he was surprised the county inspector let me pass like that, but again, these aren't needed for a garage. We can use just the regular cheap like $7, $8 breakers instead of these $50 ones. But he pulled the instructions out and was like, no, see, you hooked it up wrong. You're already attached to neutral, but somewhere in this breaker, you probably don't have a direct connection with this neutral here and the neutral back here. There's probably a disconnect. This is only reading arc here, but this is connected to neutral. I'm surprised no one caught that, but that is the reason why there are 2 slots here. And then the reason why there's a pigtail breaker is because if you don't have this internal bus bar here for neutral, you would still connect power to power, neutral to neutral, and the pigtail would go over and connect to your neutral bus bar. So I did it wrong. It probably still would have worked, but I wouldn't have had the protection that I had paid for. Now, he went and got some breakers from his supplier, and he got arc fault for the house. But the difference with the arc fault breakers that he went and got is these ones aren't GFCI protected. So just to let you know a difference there, regular breakers are probably $7, $8, $9, $10 a piece. The ones that I bought that were arc fault and GFCI, those were $49, and the ones that he got that we don't need GFCI protection, but these Eaton breakers with arc fault only, these were $38. So we did pay $11 more for those breakers because they have the GFCI protection. But again, they're not needed because the outlet is already GCFI. So we'll just leave them. I'm not going to return them because the box is all cut up and stuff. But just to let you know, that is the price difference. You're looking at basically $49, $38, and like $10. Now, on to the second electric thing that we need to change out. We have been running everything in the house off of this little roller extension cord. And if you take a look at these extension cords, you can see there's a difference in size. This orange one is probably only a 14 gauge, and this yellow one is a 12 gauge. Well, first off, the 12 gauge is running down into the basement right now and powering the sump pump that is down there. It's frayed, it's old. We should probably just go ahead and replace it because it's dangerous. But this wheelie outlet, at only being 14 gauge, that's a lot of voltage drop to go 100 feet from the RV and then 100 feet down over to the sump pump. So this new sump pump, I don't want to basically weaken its lifespan by throwing lower voltage at it that it should have. So we need to get rid of this 14 gauge and we need a new 12 gauge anyway. So coming from the RV now, we have stepped up to 10 gauge. And if you look at the difference now between all three of them, this thing is huge. So with this 10 gauge wire extension cord now coming into the house, this would almost be like we're plugging directly into the RV. There should be no voltage drop because this thing is huge. It weighs an absolute ton, and we're gonna bring that into the house now, and I got one of those plugs that will plug into there, and it will have 3 prongs. So now our new sump pump wire, which hopefully again, it'll be basically like connecting this new 12 gauge into this 10 gauge. Hopefully this will be like plugging directly into an outlet. We shouldn't see any voltage drop with a 12 gauge running to the sump pump now. And then because I bought a 3 outlet connector that will plug into the green, will power the 12. Now we can go ahead and plug in like our compressor and our saw and stuff, and we won't have that voltage drop if they're both running at the same time that I have been experiencing. On to the sump pump. I bought the biggest sump pump that Menards carries. It is a 1 horsepower, 6,660 gallons an hour. The only thing that I'm not really understanding is this has the smallest discharge hole out of all the other pumps there. That's only got a 1.5 inch, while all the other ones have a 2 inch. So I'm surprised it flows like 2,000 more gallons an hour with having a 1/2 inch smaller hole. But unfortunately, the sleeve that I put through the ICF wall, that's a 2 inch. So I bought basically a reducer. So we're gonna come 1 inch out of here, go into 1.5 inch connector with the check valve in it, and then we'll neck up to 2 inches and go out of the house. So I'm kind of surprised that that was like that, but it's still gonna work. It may not flow as much as I thought, although it should, because if you're leaving at 1.5 inches and you're going up to 2 inches, it should still flow the 6,600 gallons an hour. But that is weird that it does that. But I'm not going to change out the sleeve in the ICF house and try and seal that in with mastic and all that stuff by putting 1.5 inches through 2 inches. So we're just going to neck up to 2 inches and go from there. The only thing that I don't like though about this setup is this is 1.5 inch check valve. The problem is if you look down in there, the check valve is only like 1 inch in diameter. So we are having a lot of changing here in pipe sizing. So again, not sure if it's gonna flow the full 6,000 after this, because we're gonna be going from 1.5 inch inlet down to a 1 inch check valve, back up to 1.5 inch, and then up to 2 inches. So I mean, it's 1.5 inches. There's no other check valve that I could have gotten that would have fit 1.5 inch pipe without having that reduction in size to have the check valve actually do its thing. But we're gonna go ahead and get this set up and get started, and hopefully it all works out. And anything's gonna be better than the 1,200 gallon an hour that we have down there now, as that goes from 2 inches reduced down to garden hose size. This cord is frayed too, so I think we're just gonna trash both of these because it's just gonna be safer to run everything new with no frays. These are nice too because these all have lights on them, so now if you know you don't ever have power, you've got a green light here and an orange light here. So this is a nice upgrade from these older ones that I've been running. So hopefully this works. I am using tape here. This said it was an FIP, and these connectors at Menards, none of them said anything. So I don't know if it does screw in all the way, but I am gonna use tape just to help it out, because if it's not the right connection for like a national pipe thread versus FIP, MIP, stuff like that, if this leaks out a little, it's not gonna matter. It's sitting in a wet hole anyway. It's not like this is the plumbing that's gonna be, you know, like my kitchen sink where this needs to be really tight and the PVC really needs to make a connection. If this leaks out through these threads, it's just gonna leak back around and still push up. Again, I don't know why Menards didn't label these as the correct type of threads that you would need. And there's nothing written on here either. Anyone know why the purple is the cleaner and the glue is the white? Because it's easy to see if you cleaned it because you can see the purple, but shouldn't that be the other way around? Shouldn't you be able to see that the glue is purple and that the cleaner is clear? Because that way, if the glue was purple, then right now, you would know that everything is glued because the purple would stand out versus the cleaner. I never understood why those are backwards. All right, 1.5 inch is connected to there. We'll go ahead and screw on our 1.5 check valve, and it does say flow is up. So this should go on to here. All right, then now we just need a real tiny piece of 1.5 to basically connect that to that. And now we're up to 2 inches. All right, that should be all we need. We've got our check valve, we're glued and screwed, and we've got tape down there as an extra precaution. We've got our 1.5 inch to 2 inch reducer. Now we can go ahead and get our 90s out here. And what I'm gonna do is we're gonna 90 over to the outlet, go through the ICF wall. We're gonna 90 again to get up through the dirt, and then 90 again to go out into the yard with all of this extra pipe that I got. All right, everybody, wish me luck. We are connected down in here. All I gotta do is plug it in, and we're discharging out only 10 feet. I didn't buy enough couplers because I was in the mindset of like the electrical pipe. That stuff already is like pre-opened like that, and then you can just slide it in. So my 90s took care of that, but I need actual couplers to get on there. And then one day we will just cut that off right there, dig a trench down, and we'll dig this all underground going back there. But I do have 2 quick couplers in here, because that quick coupler right there was supposed to be used out here, but I had nothing else to attach those 2 pieces of pipe. So hopefully this thing doesn't blow apart with so much power, but let's set that up right there and we'll see what happens. Holy crap, look at it go. Look at the water flow. Look how fast that's going. That's insane. I said an hour. Try probably 10 minutes. That is definitely flowing the full 2 inches of pipe. So it's not like it's neck down or anything. All right, everybody, we are done. That took probably 30 minutes or so. Unfortunately, the basement floor is not completely level. So as you can see where the pads are, they were poured first. So water is sitting in those 4x4 pads. There's a few spots around here where it's a little low, but it's not really that bad of a thing. For example, these pads being low, because there's not a super tight connection in between the 2 concretes with the floor and the pad, water can leak down through there. And I've been noticing in here, when the sump pump's off, you still have got water that is not coming through the pipe on the outside of the house. I didn't seal around that green pipe in there and around the black sump pump basin for that reason. So any water that's under the slab right now can continue to work this way, go on the outside or even over top of the sump right here, can leak down and still get into the basin by leaking around everything. So this water will eventually all drain out as it did before. It just has to find spots in the concrete where it can leak down in between the pads or like along the walls, and especially right over in here, if you can see right where the radiant tubes are, that's a low spot where those tubes coming up, that concrete's not fully pressed down in between there around the tubes and around the foam. So water can drain down there, get under the slab. It'll sit down on top of the 2-inch foam and 6 mil vapor barrier that we've got under there, and then it can work its way all the way over to the pump. So it'll take a few days for all of this to dry out, and then we'll have to sweep up all the dirt. But for now, the sump pump can now work 100% as a sump pump. We can leave it plugged in, it can do its thing, and we don't ever have to worry about this crap ever again. So I hope you just heard that. Because that thing's so powerful, when it shuts off and it starts sucking air, that air suction is loud. So I'm wondering if I can adjust the float valve to where it actually kicks on or kicks off. So that way it's, you know, not so crazy loud. That way you don't actually suck air. You just end up sucking the last little bit of water and then it shuts off. I'll have to read the instructions to see if that's a possibility, but if not, and that's where it has to go, we are definitely gonna have to build a soundproof wall around that, because if somebody's bed is right there, which I don't know where the head of the bed will go, let's say it's against that window, you're like 2 feet from that thing just sucking so crazy loud that it's gonna wake you up and be very annoying. Because let's not forget, we've got a 6-inch French drain around the entire perimeter. So that thing can really bring in water if it wants to. Obviously, more grading on the property is going to help fix that and keep the water away so the French drain's not being overly used. And if we go outside and look right now, it's highly getting used. All right, everybody, coming at you from the future. We just finally finishing off the house. I've already wrapped this video up here that you'll see in a second, but we were able to get it done. We did have to make a run to the store real quick. We thought this was the best idea to put on a coupler so we could have some flexibility. They do make couplers, they're not as long, that are PVC, that you could slide over top of the pipe and then get your pipes close and then glue and like kind of push it back together to make a more secure connection. But I like that rubber giving some flexibility, especially because we haven't backfilled this yet, and I'd like the pipe to not crack or that joint to break loose with the glue. So we're fully in. We started backfilling. Everything now is completely done from the street. The wires are now sitting in the house. I am going to leave this trench though from here into the house completely open, because the well drillers have to come out, and for the water line they're going to have to go from the well around the hole, come next and make another trench here, and they'll go into the water line right there that we've got exposed. And then their electric they can bring in this way too, but they can lay that right in this trench, because the electric for the well is going to kick out there and go into that little sleeve there for that piece of conduit. So that way it's basically didn't plan it out as good. Probably should have moved the electric conduit over, but the way these two conduits now, they are basically right under the electric panel. So the 3-inch will go straight up into the box, and that one off to the side will go up into the box. Again, I could have moved that 2-inch sleeve there, or 1.5 inches, over to the other side and just come into the left side of the box on the inside instead of the right side, but it'll work. All they got to do is lay their electric in there. I'm sure they'll use direct burial, go right through that tube, and I believe on both of those for the well They said they shove bentonite in there, which is a type of clay that once it gets wet and gets moisture in it, it expands like way bigger than it is, and it completely seals the hole. On the inside of the house, just to take care of that, I may shove more bentonite in, or mastic, or caulking, just something to make it me feel a little bit better. But all of these PVCs are draining away from the house like this. They're going into the house on a rise. But that stone down there is still doing great. We'll put more stone on top of it before we put dirt with filter fabric, so water drains all the way down to the French drain and doesn't ever have a chance to get into those conduits, so it really should never be a problem. But again, wrapping the video up that you'll see in a second, we're going to take a look see at the basement if we had any luck with that, and that again I filmed a few hours ago, so hang tight, I'll show you there, show you that, and we're finally done. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is the following morning. We're headed down now to see what the sump pump looks like, see what the floor looks like, and see if we made it through the night, because wouldn't you know it, it got down to 30 degrees last night. Right when I said we should have no more freezing, it probably froze. But I'm pretty confident that it looks good, and it does. No broken pipes or anything. The reason why it probably didn't freeze is because of the fact that the ground is so wet right now. It just kept filling up with water and the pump kept turning on. In fact, if you look out there right now, there's standing water everywhere. So didn't have a chance to freeze if it's pumping out. So it looks like we are good. We'll have to get some more couplers here to extend this out a little bit further. But again, it looks like we should be good. In fact, it looks like it just turned on because I can see some running water going down now. So it's still kicking on probably every 2 or 3 minutes because the ground's so wet and everything's leaking down in there. But it definitely did freeze out here. There's definitely ice everywhere on these puddles. So we're lucky we didn't break any of that pipe. But from here on out, we should be good to go. So I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Hope you guys enjoyed as always. Again, please like, subscribe, comment. Hit us up at NeckofTheWoods 2020 if you guys need to message us or if you want to see any extra details. But it looks like we should be good to go. Hope you enjoyed. We will be hooking up the electric hopefully in the next video or in the next 2. We still have one little bit of run to go on the backside and get into the house. But that shouldn't take more than just a few minutes to push it in, and then maybe we'll install the panel in the basement also and get ready for that. But I do want to finish out the waterproofing kind of on the side up where the gable end on the garage and the house meet. I want to get that buttoned up because if there is a chance for water to get pushed in, for example on these windows, get behind the Tyvek and run down the inside, and it runs all the way down into the basement, that's right where that panel is, and it's right where that corner is a little more critical because you got 2 different elevations kind of coming together. So I want to get that waterproofed, buttoned up, and finished over there, which we should be able to do hopefully today or tomorrow. But hopefully it warms up, and we'll just take it one step at a time. So again, hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see y'all later.